The War of the Worlds is a 1953 science fiction film brought to you by George Pal, who produced it, directed by Byron Haskin, and of course, an adaptation of the novel by the godfather of science fiction, Mr. H.G. Wells. We are covering it today on the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Golden Hour Film Podcast. My name is Harry Bailey. I'm joined by my co-host, not guest host, Shane Mulvaney. Shane, how are you?
Very, very well. Yeah, looking forward to getting into the War of the Worlds, like you said. H.G.Wells. We've obviously covered the Invisible Man, and this is a nice little return to the podcast for him, because I think the Invisible Man, that's definitely definitely a story and a film we both really, really loved. So let's see if we thought the same, but thought the misses on a par.
Yeah, I don't think we did we?
No, I personally didn't know. Great story, but I think the execution in this particular area the case is lacking, but I'm sure we'll get into it.
Yeah, it's from that era, 1950s sci-fi.
Yeah.
I touched on it at the very end of last week's episode, where a lot of the films, when you look at the cast and you look at the crew and everything, you see either a load of names you have never heard of and will probably never hear of again, or you get the odd one where you get, a young Steve McQueen or a young, I've already forgotten her name, which does not prove my point at all, from When Worlds Collide, also produced by George Pal, and that woman's name is, of course, Barbara Rush. Don't know how I forgot that. But yeah, the odd time you get like a real breakthrough actor or a young actor, and this is not the case. I think the effects in this are a lot of fun. Some of them really work, some of them not so much. But as far as the acting goes, the performances and stuff, I do think that this is on the lower end of the scale of films we've covered. A lot of the sci-fi films from the 50s have a charm to them, but also a lot of them do genuinely have some good performances in there. I just don't think this necessarily does. What about you, Shane?
No, I agree with that. Yeah, I kept wanting the main actor, Gene Barry. Gene Barry, who plays Clayton Forrester, so the professor. I kept wanting him to show just a bit of fire and a bit of passion. Finally, at one point, he does, but I think there's basically only two scenes, I would say, where he actually shows the urgency that you need. Like, we're talking about an alien invasion here. Like, come on, can you not show a bit of fire, a bit of passion, a bit of something there? And it's like he's just about to get ready to go down to the local supermarket and, you know what I mean, like, and just buy the groceries for that week. It's like it's very calm and one paced and very monotonous, and come on, man, job with a fucking fire here. It's an alien invasion.
As well, his relationship on screen with Anne Robinson, there's no sexual tension, there's no chemistry, there's no nothing.
No.
They may as well be father and daughter for all I care, but like haven't seen each other in 40 years. Like there's no relationship there.
No, there isn't. No, exactly right. At least she and her uncle do have kind of a relationship, like obviously where at least she obviously clearly cares for him, and then getting into maybe some spoiler territory, but once a certain event happens, like, you do kind of feel for her obviously in that moment. But I mean, yeah, like this Clayton Forrester, definitely not what you want your protagonist to kind of be, in terms of, like, he has all the answers, or at least he's the only one who has some answers. Let's put it like that. But come on, man, show a bit of urgency, just every once in a while at least.
Yeah, there's some heavy religious undertones is an understatement, I think, for this film. With When Worlds Collide, another George Pal film, it is obviously a Noah's Ark film set in the 50s sci-fi world, so to speak. This, like, they just show all their cards. This is very much a film about the rapture, and it's I mean, they are literally hoping and praying for a miracle to happen. The final sequences of this film take place in a church. There's no real attempt, in my opinion, to take what this film is implying and portray it in any sort of artistic or stylish or memorable way. It is fairly black and white. This is what this film is about. Like, there's no mystery there, which is ironic because when you're talking about questions about God and heaven and the rapture and everything, it's, I don't want to say it's easy, but like the having those sort of doubter characters in there or atheist characters in there who maybe get proven wrong in a scene or whatever, like those things exist. It's fairly easy to do that, but for some reason this film does not do that. It is fairly black and white. This is clearly a metaphor for a bunch of stuff that happens in the Bible and believing in God and the rapture and all of that jazz. And although I don't think that the direction or the writing or the plot or anything in this film in particular are in any way a genius or impressive way of conveying what they mean, one thing that I do find impressive is the effects. I find them very endearing for the time. There is some genuinely great effects in here, but I just think it's a fascinating look at how Martians look, because like obviously when you think of a Martian, you think of a big green alien with big black eyes and they're like 7 foot tall with a big head. And no, that's not at all what the Martians look like in this. Again, they don't look necessarily like the illustrations that you see when you look at the H.G.Wells original, which I think the Tom Cruise version of this film definitely leans more into. But that being said, it is still an interesting and fun adaptation of Martians and what Martians look like and what a Martian warship looks like or what a Martian probe looks like or anything like that. I think it's an interesting way of doing that. I like the effects in this a lot. And particularly towards the end with some of the scenes that happen in Los Angeles, where the city is effectively on fire. Some of the sequences are a lot of fun as well. There's a scene where a barn just gets, or sorry, a farmhouse gets demolished by, we'll call it a meteorite for now, and that sequence is great, effects wise as well. Then when a probe goes into said farmhouse, I love the effects of that, but the acting in those sequences kind of lose me, to be honest. I'm not huge on it.
No, I agree. It leaves a lot to be desired, because like the story is really captivating. So we get the voiceover at the very start talking about how there's a group from Mars watching Earth closely for thousands of years, looking for possible planets to migrate to, and they're technologically much more advanced.
They shout out every planet bar Venus, by the way.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, yeah. But
Random. Like literally, they go through. Even Pluto gets a shout out, but Venus doesn't. What did Venus do to these guys?
But yeah, it's obviously like Martians is the focus here. By the way, there's just a little note. So the screenplay by Barry Lyndon. I thought that was pretty interesting.
I did see that. I did notice that. Was pretty fun. Barry
now,
Lyndon wrote this.
Yeah, good for you, Barry Lyndon. A couple of 100 years after exploits in Ireland. But yeah. But yeah, then obviously we get the moment where the meteorite, which is I guess what we're calling it for the purposes of obviously trying to describe
non-spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. The meteorite hits the Earth and in California, and then obviously, that's when we see Professor Forrester, the boring Professor Forrester, talking about how they should be mining it and stuff, and then obviously maybe all is not as it seems, and then fast forward a little bit to that moment where everyone's off dancing and stuff. He's off dancing with Sylvia Van Buren, and then they leave kind of three locals just there to kind of monitor developments. And in that moment where we see like the strobe lightings and just strange goings on, and then they're like, then they finally like, oh, maybe if we wave white flags, they'll see. Like everyone knows white flag is the sign of peace. And yeah, then shit starts to hit the fan.
Yeah, I like films. I like one thing I like a lot about the 1950s sci-fi films and ones that do it well. Particularly, again, I reference it a few times now. Is the Steve McQueen, The Blob? Is I love when they're set in like these quaint little 50s towns, and you kind of get like the diners and the dance sequences and all that, and the streets and the costume design and everything. Like you feel like you're transported back to the 50s, which is something enjoyable. And as well, I love that instantly when this Martian meteorite hits the Earth, this town all band together to try and turn it into a tourist trap. Like that is so funny and kind of realistic that instantly they're like, yeah, we'll charge people for food. We'll set up food trucks. Like we'll get vendors out here. We'll charge tickets. We're gonna make so much money out of this. We're gonna really put our town on the map here. And then one guy's like, well, why don't we put park benches? And it's like, no, because then they'll bring their own lunch. But yeah, no, the small quaint little town vibes, they don't last for very long because this very quickly becomes like a global movie.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy when we spend some time in this like quaint little 50s outside of Los Angeles town. But yeah, this probe, we'll call it for now, it looks like a periscope that pokes out of the meteorite eventually. Just absolutely disintegrates three of the villagers, like literally turns them to ash. And whenever it does this, the incredibly boring Clayton and I think the sheriff, they don't witness it, but they witness it shooting lasers at the police, and they witness another meteor landing. And over the radio then, which again, we gotta reference Orson Welles' radio broadcast of this, which people thought was real, which is so funny.
Yeah, it's very funny.
So amazing. Yeah, over the radio, this film goes from this quaint little town outside Los Angeles to a international film where we don't see it, but from what we learn over the radio, these things have landed everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. London, Naples, Santiago, Madrid, they all mentioned. So it's like very much a global event. It's not confined, obviously, to this one town. But that moment that I just mentioned about the waving white flags, like it's clearly toying with viewers' expectations because they're like, well, it'll be fine. Like, if we wave the white flags, everyone knows. And it's like, well, clearly something's about to go down here. So it clearly does a good job of messing with your expectations. I think that's the moment where, those are the moments where the film really does well, because it's taking for granted the fact that you like kind of know kind of storytelling stakes. And all right, if we set something up and it's like if one character takes one thing for granted, well, of course they're going to be
I also like that they acknowledge that themselves, the three villagers, because one of them says, well, how are we going to communicate with it otherwise? And one of the guys goes, oh, well, use sign language, as if like Martians know any of the multiple sign languages that we have on Earth.
Yeah.
It's like they're kind of building up to that scene being like, oh, these guys are getting themselves into a spot of bother here. And again, as you said, with that character's uncle later on in the film, it does play with your expectations again.
Yeah.
But yeah, over time, the military do kind of take notice and form a bit of a surrounding around this particular meteorite. I'm sure they're around all the other ones too, but we're very much honing in on this one for now before it becomes a big, massive global thing. And yeah, the religious connotations, again, connotations is such an understatement, but the religious connotations of this film really do start to begin.
Yeah, very much so. And again, also should be mentioned that the alien spaceships, which is obviously what we know they are, they're landing in threes, so very much like kind of strength in numbers, if you want to call it that. But yeah, fast forward to the bit where Clayton does finally manage to do something useful with his time, and he manages to convince the military to, with the military head, if you want to call it, this particular area, he manages to convince them to go to the government and essentially tell them, like, this is what you have to do. You have to shut down this, shut down that, etc., etc. And then the voiceover talks about the massive wave of destruction around the world, and he calls it the massacre of humanity. It's talked about the British seem to be the only kind of semi kind of useful kind of nation, because all the other nations, which is pretty funny. But yeah, it's, obviously I wonder where H.G.Wells was from. But
yeah, the English were totally fine. The Martians didn't even land there because they were too scared of them. They were too scared of what would happen if they landed in Durham or the Cotswolds.
Yeah, I wonder where he was from. But good for him anyway. Look, he's back in his home nation. Good for him. But yeah, obviously the English seem to be the only kind of country that have sort of a handle, sort of a grasp on all of this. And scientists, they say that they move in threes. They have three eyes. They finally managed to convince the military then to coordinate this bomb attack in California. and they say the fate of the world is about to be decided. So they say if this fails, in 6 days the Martians could. Which is pretty, again. You talk about military, or so you talk about religious connotations.
Yes.
Again, God built the earth.
Again, no
6 days,
connotations
yeah.
or mystery here.
Yeah, it's
Sylvia
yeah.
literally says,
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
that's how many days it took God to create the earth.
Yeah, that's
Thanks for that
yeah.
one, Sylvia. Appreciate that. Yeah, nice. But as well, Sylvia's uncle, the pastor, because spoiler alert, he dies.
Yeah.
He, in fairness to him, when they form all these kind of military rings and bring in tanks and planes and guns and bombs, he was like, have we actually tried communicating with them first? He's obviously totally oblivious to the white flag people who got massacred. And they're all like, oh, no, we're just going to shoot them. And he's like, okay. And then he starts saying the start of the rap from Gangsta's Paradise is what I always think of whenever I hear the beginning of that prayer. But he goes out and, the shadow of death or the valley of... You know the one. You all know that one.
Yeah.
And basically, again, playing with audience expectations, you think he's going to last a little longer than he does because he comes across as a very competent and knowledgeable character, and he is also Sylvia's uncle, who is a very prominent character in this film. So you'd think he's going to last a bit longer, but now very early on in this film does the priest just get lasered to dust, just instantly massacred. And when we talk about this film later on, when we talk about this instance later on in the film, again, Gene Barry's performance is just incredible because Sylvia is sobbing about her uncle who has been lasered to death and is like a small pile of ash somewhere out in the California desert. And she talks about her sob story where basically her parents abandoned her or something and she was left at a church and she was looking for God, and the kindest person she found was her uncle Matthew, who's the pastor. And she's talking about how amazing her uncle was for doing what he did. And Clayton, the scientist, Gene Barry, says, I liked him. That is his response to her pouring her heart out and sobbing. I liked him. Like, as if you're talking about like a coworker who you haven't thought about in 15 years. Oh yeah, liked him. And she is devastated. But like, she doesn't like get pissed off at him. That is just his line delivery. And she's like, oh, Clayton. And then they like embrace. It's so wooden.
So bad.
So wooden. I think, ironically, Anne Robinson, no relation to the woman who did, what was that game show where
The Weakest Link?
The Weakest Link. You are the weakest link. Yep. Goodbye. No relation to her, I don't think. But just in case, let me just double check.
I'd be surprised.
No, it was not.
Pretty,
no, it's
be
not.
Pretty
Would be incredible though.
So
would be incredible. Different Anne Robinson, unfortunately. Yeah, I think she kind of overacts in a couple of scenes, but overall, she's definitely a better performance. But there's a scene where they escape to someone's farmhouse and they like steal all their eggs and drink all their juice, just assuming that they're not going to come home. And then a meteor lands and smashes into it and somehow they survive. And then this periscope looking thing with the 3 eyes pokes its head in the window, and Clayton beheads it with an axe, which he found. And she sees a scarf with blood on it and she just bursts out crying. I thought I missed something. She just goes from 0 to bawling, crying, and then again, yeah.
I literally have a note here. She just becomes a shrieking mess out of nowhere,
like totally I thought I missed something. I was like, oh my god, is that like her fucking uncle's scarf or something? But no, it's just a scarf. It's just a scarf that exists that triggers her, and she goes absolutely buck wild. And Clayton just stands there like one of the other floorboards, just nothing at all. They just embrace good old Clayton and Sylvia.
Yeah, fair play. But yeah, the bomb that they talked about being like the kind of the fail-safe option, the last hurrah, if you will, that does fail. So it seems that all hope is lost. But then he says, well, like, if we can't beat their military defenses, then we can only beat them by a biological defect. Which is essentially, let's be honest, essentially the film telling us exactly how it's going to end.
Yes, literally. Yeah.
Fair play. But yeah,
Yeah.
so the citizens are all brought in mass to like places, supposed safe places in the mountains, where at least they can kind of hole up and kind of ride out for as long as possible. We got like destruction in this town. There's riots. People are trying to buy their way onto safety trucks. Clayton is trying to stop the trucks, and then he finally just blasts everywhere. Finally, it looks like the mob, or sorry, finally looks like the military come along and are going to actually escort him to safety. But he's like, no, I need to find Sylvia. So he's going to this church, and again, talk about religious connotations, not so connotations. Yeah, not connotations.
So generous.
But yeah, like
He leaves and goes back into the church 3 times.
yeah, and look, obviously people are praying to God for a miracle. I wonder what's going to happen next. And then all of a
It
sudden,
just falls out of the fucking sky.
out of the sky, and then the door just slowly opens, and you can see like one of the aliens, and then it just kind of collapses. And wouldn't you know it, Clayton seems to have known exactly what has actually happened, and he says that yeah, they've died. Obviously, it's some kind of bacterial thing that, and then that's also corroborated by the voiceover. It says they had no defense against the bacteria to which we have all since become immune, and thanks be to God, essentially.
Load of bollocks.
It's, do you know what, I was interested in the actual like the aliens landing and stuff, and what was the reason for it, and obviously like take over the world, etc., etc. But yeah, it's such a weak ending. I feel like I'm assuming it's faithful to the book. I'd imagine.
I'm sure the book fleshes it out more. Surely.
Yeah, surely.
Surely it fleshes it out more.
I've not read
Like,
the
there's
book, but
nothing
yeah.
to indicate that this. There's nothing to indicate.
No.
Like what? How are they getting exposed to the bacteria if they're in their ships? Like there's.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, that's exactly my thought. Yeah, exactly my thought.
Yeah, it's very like maybe if it was like the one who got out of a ship earlier, like collapses or something, and they're like, oh, maybe it's the Earth's atmosphere or something. But no, he runs away and we never see him again, so we don't know what happens to him. Maybe he died of the bacteria. He probably did, but as well, I also thought that like because it happens as soon as this one just shoots the church, it's the first one to fall, and then they all fall. I was kind of like, oh, are they gonna like just leave it open ended and not very open ended, but like, was it an act of God that stopped them? As in, like they just all miraculously fell out of the earth or fell out of the sky, and they were like, oh my God, what happened? And then it turns out that I don't know, God took it personal that they shot a church or something. But no, bacteria. There's a few things in this that, like, again, I'm sure they're expanded upon more in the book that would have been interesting to go down. Like, they go down this whole route of, like, discovering that the aliens see color differently, but, like, that doesn't go anywhere. The only thing that I can think of that serves is they couldn't understand that the white flag was white. But even still, like, if people are running at you with a green flag, that's still a green flag, you know? It's not a bad flag to see. It's not like it's a black flag or a red flag. It's a green flag. So, you know, nothing wrong with a green flag. But yeah, the color blindness stuff is fascinating, and as well, like the whole like everyone has to evacuate to the hills. Like I wouldn't have minded seeing like what actually happens in this community in the hills now, but instead they're all just kind of like sat on the hills sunbathing, watching this atomic bomb get dropped, and that's all we get to see of them. Really, I feel like there's a lot of things that I'm assuming get expanded upon properly in the book that just didn't really get expanded upon. But there is some good to be had in this, don't get me wrong, but it is just few and far between. It is few and far between, really. The vibes of this are fun. Like the 50s sci-fi vibes will always be fun, but there are definitely better 50s sci-fi films than this.
Very much so. Yeah, totally agree with that, yeah.
So what you reckon? Any use?
I would say there are, well, certainly the Spielberg adaptation is a better adaptation in my opinion, and it's been a long time again since I've seen that. Probably, well, it's been 20 years since it was released, so it's probably been at least 15 years since I've seen it. But yeah, I do remember enjoying that definitely a lot more than I would have enjoyed this. So yeah, I think if you're kind of looking for maybe just one adaptation, that's the only one that I've seen, but I would prefer that, to be honest. I gave this 2.5 stars. Like I said, it's not terrible by any means. It's definitely watchable. it's definitely the crux of a really good story there. The voiceover narration is like, it really does set the tone and set the stage uh, for kind of spooky goings on, for extraterrestrial goings on, etc., etc. But yeah, I don't think it fully capitalizes on its premise and on its kind of its great kind of hook. And the
Mm-hmm.
performances are just quite listless and quite boring in one note. Especially the lead actor, Gene Barry, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Like, come on, bro. Like, give us something here. Give us something here. Like, it's that's definitely not up to much. He isn't. So yeah, like, it's not without its merits, but I would definitely prefer the Spielberg version, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think that similar-ish to Gregory Peck. I feel like we haven't done the because obviously it's a subgenre and a period that has like its diehard fans. We haven't really done the 50s sci-fi diehards a huge favor or anything by covering this one first, because there is way better classic 50s sci-fi films and B movies and stuff that are like really fun and have really fun effects and go to certain places, and they have more artistic merit because they're not showing, like, they're not, sorry, they are showing you stuff. It's show don't tell, whereas in this case it's very much tell. Like, they tell you what everything actually means, and it's kind of, I don't know, just not great. It's an enjoyable movie, don't get me wrong, but again, I just had really high expectations. I actually thought that the opening 20 minutes is actually quite good. I was really into the small town vibes and the hysteria, and just them not having a clue and trying to pick apart different things. Like, oh, well, surely a meteor that size would leave a much bigger crater. And then they're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, then it must be hollow. And like the sequence where they're all at the dance, and then all of a sudden all their watches stop working,
Mm.
and Clayton realizes that they've all become magnetized. Like, there's little scenes like that where I know it's the war of the world, so eventually it does have to become like this big globe spanning thing. But I definitely preferred all the stuff in that quaint little town over the listless science that happens for no real like, most of it goes in no real direction, and the ending is totally flat. Again, I don't understand. Like, there's no real need for it to be set in LA other than for us to see mass destruction, but we don't really get enough of it. Like, what we
No.
see is good and fun, but we don't really get a lot of destruction. Maybe that's just because of the effects budget. I'm not sure. Like, a lot of these 50s sci-fi budgets weren't huge, but as far as I'm aware, this had like a pretty big budget for those kinds of films, like with the big matte paintings and stuff of the different planets in the opening alone would have cost a lot of money back then. But yeah, I think it has the elements of a good sci-fi film, but overall, there's definitely better 1950s sci-fi films for you all to check out. This is not one of my favorites, but it's definitely like a watchable
Yeah.
classic sci-fi film, just not the best. And yeah, that is The War of the Worlds. Shane, I am very much aware that this is a frighteningly short episode, and we have not talked about sorry, we don't have movies that we've watched recently to talk about. So Shane, I have for you a golden hour film podcast, higher or lower. I want to know, Shane. I'm going to start naming movies
Okay.
that we have covered on the Golden Hour Film Podcast. You can play along at home. I'm going to name two movies, and you need to tell me, first of all, which one is the higher rated one, and then I'm going to name another one, and you have to tell me which one is rated higher or lower according to their letterboxed averages. We'll see
Averages.
how long
Okay.
Shane lasts. So
Let's see
obviously we'll
this.
start easier and work our way up. But right, Shane, I give you Mr. and Mrs. Smith or Saboteur.
That's the Hitchcock version of Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Saboteur, yes, Hitchcock.
Um,
That is the Robert Cummings and Priscilla Lane film.
I would say Saboteur is rated higher than Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
It is indeed, yes. Saboteur has a 3.5. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, this is 3.1. Shane, Saboteur versus Shadow of a Doubt.
Oh,
What one
Shadow
is
of a
rated
Doubt.
higher?
Shadow of a Doubt has got to be rated higher.
Do you reckon?
I would imagine so, yeah.
Yes, Shadow of a Doubt is a 4.0 rating. Shane, Shadow of a Doubt versus Rebecca.
Ooh. I'm going to stick with Shadow of a Doubt for some reason. I don't know why. That's my gut instinct. But I probably prefer Rebecca, to be honest. But
Shadow of a Doubt is a 4.0. Rebecca is a 4.1.
okay.
Okay, so Rebecca is still standing. So we'll just keep going anyway for any of you who are still playing along at home. Shane, Rebecca is a 4.1. Rebecca versus Foreign Correspondent.
Rebecca.
Yes, Foreign Correspondent is a 3.7. Rebecca versus Puchin.
Rebecca.
Yes, Puchin was a 3.5. Rebecca versus The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Ooh. I would say The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is rated higher.
Rebecca is a 4.1. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is also a 4.1, so I'll just give it to you. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari or Rope.
Oh. I will say Rope. Just.
The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is a 4.1 and Rope is also a 4.1. Don't know
I had
why
a
I did
feeling.
that twice in a row.
I had a feeling, yeah. I did have a feeling.
Shane, Rope, which is a 4.1, or Sweet Smell of Success.
Ooh, I think, for some reason, Sweet Smell of Success is a 4.2, I'm going to say.
It is indeed. Sweet Smell of Success is a 4.2. Sweet Smell of Success or 12 Angry Men.
12 Angry Men is 4.6 or 4.7, something stupid.
It is, in fact, a 4.6.
Fully
and
deserved.
it will be hard to beat.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard to beat. And which is why I'm going straight to 12 Angry Men, which is a 4.6, or Psycho.
Oh, man. I can't imagine Psycho's more than a 4.6. As great as it is.
At this point, from now on, the game ends if Shane gets it wrong.
Okay.
So 12 Angry Men is a 4.6. You have to say if it is either higher, lower, or the same.
I'm going to say the same.
Oh, well, I've just ended the game. Psycho is a 4.3. Would you
really?
believe?
I thought it was definitely more than that. That's mad.
Weirdly low. I would love to know if there's any film that we have covered that is a higher average than 4.6, but I can't imagine there is. The only one I could think of
maybe Seven
is Seven Samurai, which is a 4.6.
Yeah.
Citizen Kane, 4.2. To the people who pretend to dislike Citizen Kane, shut up, man. Shut up. So embarrassing. Yeah, I can't imagine that any film that we've covered is higher than 4.6, because I can't imagine there's many films that are higher than 4.6. I reckon that Seven Samurai and 12 Angry Men are probably the highest rated films that we've ever covered on the podcast.
They've got to be, I'd say, yeah.
Do you reckon Seven Samurai is going to sweep the awards this year? Seeing as 12 Angry Men kind of swept the awards last year?
Yeah, I'd say Mifune and Kurosawa are definitely in with big shots for sure. They've got to be.
Yeah. Best Picture as well, probably.
Yeah, and Best Picture, yeah.
Early predictions, Shane. We'll go through. I won't even name the nominees. I want your early predictions for, and I'll give you mine too. The Golden Hour Film Podcast Awards, and keep in mind this is before we do Noirvember, which I feel like will always be a big hit with the award season. So I'll announce a few of the awards. We're doing a few extra awards this year.
Yeah.
So, Best Arc. What do you reckon wins Best Arc? I think it's a hard one to decide. And you can't predict Noirvember, because that's not fair.
Maybe it's recency bias talking, but I do, and maybe it's just because I'm a fan of heist movies, but I do like the Heist of the Century arc.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. And it's done well for us.
Yeah. I think so. I think it's probably our best arc we've done in a while. I also, going back a while, I really enjoyed Romance at the Movies.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Ball of Fire is a class film that we covered. I think Brief Encounter was a class film that we covered. Roman Holiday is a class film that we covered. And like they're all good episodes as well, I feel. And the fourth one was Brief Encounter, Ball of Fire, Roman Holiday, and of course Casablanca.
Casablanca.
Yeah, I reckon Romance of the Movies is probably going to win best arc.
That's
If I was to hazard a guess. Again, I think we said that we were going to do this earlier on in the year because having your own award show is self-serving enough. I think that having best recurring joke is fitting of an award ceremony because it's also very self-serving. But Shane, best recurring joke, one that I haven't even put in as a nominee, but I think is just going to become prominent in November is characters playing the Killer Moth role. Which is basically the guy pulling the strings in the background of all the dodgy dealings. So shout out to Killer Moth just because I want to shout out Killer Moth again.
I would probably say the Gregory Peck. The fact that we just
Gregory Peck, to be fair,
keep picking his absolute worst films. Poor guy.
Guy. We were even, not seriously, but we were like partially considering next year doing an apologies to Gregory Peck arc where we just pick like 4 good Gregory Peck films just to kind of salvage his reputation on the podcast. But I don't think we're going to actually do that. No. That would be a bit of crack. Best score or soundtrack. Obviously, last year we did Psycho, which annihilated that category. This year, I think it's kind of harder.
Yeah.
Personally,
go on. Yeah, go ahead.
I would argue that maybe, honest to God, give me Goldfinger. Fuck it.
Nice.
Give me Goldfinger. That tune is unbelievable, and how they work it into the Bond themes and stuff. Give me Goldfinger for best score or soundtrack.
I think On the Waterfront is a sneaky good soundtrack as well, and
yeah, true.
I think Superman is obviously just iconic. John Williams.
Oh,
John Williams
sorry. Yeah, what am I saying? Superman probably will win it. Actually,
yeah.
This is the next 4 I think are impossible.
Yeah.
Best actor. Go on, pick one then.
Man.
Pick one best actor.
The one, looking through the nominees here so far, at least the long list of nominees, man, Mifune is up there for sure. I think Ernest Borgnine has got to be up there for Marty. I think Bogart has got to be up there for Casablanca.
And In a Lonely Place, to be honest.
Yeah, and In a Lonely Place, good show. And I think obviously Jimmy Stewart for Rear Window has got to be up there as well. So those are the probably ones that stand out to me the most.
Yeah, I also definitely think Marlon Brando for On the Waterfront.
Yeah, actually, it's a good show as well. Yeah, for sure.
And then best lead actress, I think, is probably gonna be Ingrid Bergman in Casablanca. Like, it's literally one of the most iconic performances ever.
Yeah.
But again, like, we've covered so many amazing ones. Audrey Hepburn in Roman Holiday, Celia Johnson in Brief Encounter, and Barbara Stanwyck from Ball of Fire were all in the same month. Like, yeah, that's it. That's a tricky one. But I'd probably tip towards Ingrid Bergman in Casablanca.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Best supporting actor, I'm giving it to Harold Sakata as Odd Job and Goldfinger.
Nice.
He's getting my vote. I don't care.
I think our boy Claude Rains has got to be up there for Casablanca.
Of course. God, I'm actually torn now. Yeah,
I think
we can't have Claude Rains not win an award this year.
No, I think Gene Hackman for Superman is just such a fun performance as Lex Luthor.
He is a lot of fun. Shout out Claude Rains as well for being a Golden Hour Film Podcast award winner for best actor.
Yeah, actually,
and then best supporting actress.
Speaking of Gene Hackman, just the conversation he's got, I know it's like weirdly not doing that well, but I love his performance in the conversation. It's so good.
He's amazing.
Best supporting actress.
And we don't have a category for best sound design, but obviously that would just win.
Yeah, that's just going to win. Like, it's just by far the best. It's ridiculously good.
Yeah.
I think Esther Minchiotti for Marty is really, really great in for best supporting
actress. Yeah, she's fantastic.
And
she's so great.
I think Thelma Ritter as well in Rear Window has Yeah, there's just a presence that she brings to that film as well, as obviously the neighbor as his kind of nurse, I should say, that helps
Yeah.
him through. So yeah, she's great as that as well on that.
Yeah. And then, shout out Estelle Parsons for winning the Oscar, but I don't think she's gonna
No,
gonna
good performance,
win
but yeah,
at the Golden Era Film Podcast Awards. Best random side character is gonna be impossible as always to predict. With so many amazing nominees, obviously it's probably the biggest award that there is. That being said, I would love to see Otis from Superman, or Pastrami and Asma
yeah.
from Ball of Fire.
Pastrami and Asma were all my pick, to be honest. They were.
Yeah, Pastrami and Asma from Ball of Fire, or Otis from Superman, or to go for a serious pick, Kyuzo the Japanese John Wick from Seven Samurai.
Yeah, he's great.
Best screenplay, again, pretty much impossible.
Impossible, yeah, impossible.
Pretty much impossible. Like, there's literally no way of predicting what's going to win that because there's so many great screenplays. If I was to force myself to pick one, I'd probably go with maybe, do you know what? Just because it's a film that we haven't referenced yet, maybe Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I was going to say
just
that.
because we haven't actually, just because we've not referenced it yet. Again, best director, literally impossible. There is no way of predicting who is going to win best director this year. Again, I'll try and pick one from a movie we haven't talked about yet, and I will say Agnes Varda from Cleo from 5 to 7 because we haven't spoken about her yet. Actually, Corinne Marchand could also win best lead actress
Very much
for
so.
that film.
Yeah, very much so. David
Shane,
Lee.
best picture prediction.
Oh, best picture prediction. For some reason, I have a feeling that maybe it's tough. Maybe Casablanca or maybe Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Like, I know there are two
I
maybe
think
obvious
Casablanca,
ones,
Citizen Kane, Seven Samurai are probably
yeah,
three safe bets.
yeah, for sure. They're going to be ranking quite high, I would imagine.
Yeah, and then of course, other than best random side character, the other most important award, best episode. Again, it's a tough one. I think some of our best episodes have been some of our more recent ones.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, like, even though it's not an episode that did very well, I think Citizen Kane is an episode a lot of people liked because it's just us talking about how class a movie
How great it is, yeah.
Yeah. We just went an hour talking about how great that movie is. So if you ever want to watch two people just love a thing, just watch the episode where we cover Citizen Kane because we literally just go an hour where we talk about how class Citizen Kane is. I think, again, films like Brief Encounter and Ball of Fire are very good for different reasons. Brief Encounter is such an emotional movie. Ball of Fire is such a funny movie that we had a great time covering them. To be honest, Goldfinger has to also get a shout out. Goldfinger has to get a shout out. Shout out, Odd Job.
Yeah, Goldfinger's a good app. I agree with that.
Yeah, and then of course we haven't actually referenced our two most watched episodes of the year as of recording this, which are somehow Midnight Cowboy, which is like a fine episode. It's not I wouldn't say it's our best episode or anything, and You Only Live Twice, which again isn't even our best Bond episode in my opinion, but it's kind of funny that that's our most viewed episode of the year so far as of recording. Who knows though? Maybe Heist Month. Because we are actually recording this before Heist Month even comes out.
Yeah.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, Heist Month or King Kong take off. But yeah, as it stands, our most viewed episode this year on YouTube is You Only Live Twice. What can you do?
There you go.
But yeah, that was the episode of the Golden Era Film Podcast where we covered The War of the Worlds. Next week, we cover our first Japanese film in months. We cover Godzilla. Again, talking about the A-bomb in this film. They talk about it, and they do it with a lot more artistic merit next week in Godzilla. Ishiro Honda's Godzilla. A return to the podcast for Shimura as well, who was the guy who recruited the Seven Samurai, who is an unbelievable actor. Everyone go watch Ikaru, an amazing movie where he gives one of the greatest performances of all time. But yes, next week, our return to Japan for us. We go and watch Godzilla, which I believe came out literally the year after this. I think it's 54, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it's 54.
Yeah. So next week, Godzilla. In the meantime, I've been Harry Bailey.
I've been Jim Hunt.
And a while ago, we talked about the War of the Worlds, and then it turned into a quiz, and then we discussed the awards. Because, War of the Worlds isn't great. But next week, we cover a film that is great, and that's Godzilla. See you then. Goodbye.